Okay, I get the great privilege of introducing my husband. I don't ever get to introduce him. So I was thinking, what would I say here? You guys asked 3 pages of questions last week. There's no way that Mark will be able to answer all those questions, but he's going to answer a certain amount of them. He's going to talk to you about biases we bring to this whole discussion before we ever touch the Word of God. He's going to talk about how men think. But I just wanted to say something in working this partnership we're talking about. I was just thinking about meeting Mark and coming together as a couple. And first, before I ever really knew him, I had a deep respect for him. I watched what he did, and I really respected his love for God and how he treated people. But when we began to date and it became apparent that we were probably going to get married, he said something to me. He said, we need to be more for God together than we are separately. Or if we're really going to follow God, we shouldn't get married. Now, that's really wise and smart, but that was really made me feel like, do you care about me? You know, because that's the emotional part came in. But that was the truth. And what he did was he taught me rationalization to a emotional response. We respond emotionally, especially with salesmen. As we've been together, somebody would try to sell something. I go, oh yeah, man, that's right, absolutely. And Mark would come in and begin to ask questions. And it's like, oh, I never thought of that. Didn't think about that. Oh, you can do that cheaper? So there was this rationalization he brought into this emotional response, and taught me to look at the facts to find the truth, not just the emotions. He also taught, as we had kids, how to let sons become men, how to loosen the apron strings, how to let them do dangerous, courageous stuff, because we're all protecting them. We want to keep them little, and they need men to come in and grow them up. He was always gentle, kind, thoughtful, forgiving, because when 2 people come together, there has to be forgiveness. He's going to leave here. And one thing I thought about as we are learning that men lead in the home and the church, God made men the guardians of the truth first, for really good reason. If I have a neighbor that I love and they become a heretic, they're teaching blasphemous stuff, I'm more willing as a woman to say, oh, but I like him so much. Let's just forget that they said that. Let's just throw that on the back burner. Whereas Mark would come forward with the truth. What is the truth? And so when the truth needs to be guarded, it needs to be guarded by people that aren't going to be pulled back and forth emotionally. And finally, I just wanted to share, well, actually, I'm not going to share anything else. I'm just going to turn it over to Mark at this point. Mark Hoffman. I have a syllabus for you. I forgot I left it in my office. So I'm going to go grab it and we'll pass it out.
All right, here I am. I don't know what you see when you look at me, but what you should see is someone who's really tired. I got back very late last night from the men's retreat, and my house was hot. I couldn't sleep. I sleep about 1:45. It's been a long, long week. And so last night I was speaking to men about what it means to be a man. Today I'm speaking to women. Unfortunately, I got the messages mixed up, and I preached to the men last night about being women, and so that didn't go over very well. Let's see. Okay, so I'm not 100% sure what I'm supposed to do, even though Linda tried to tell me. I had a hard time understanding it. But I have some questions here. I want to talk a little bit, and one of the questions I'll start out with is somebody asked a question, what do you think about feminism? Is feminism a good thing? What do you think about it? And so I thought maybe that would be a good starting off place, and then we'll get into the Bibles. I want you to think about what I'm going to say, because maybe you've never thought about this before. Sure. Amen. Thank you. All right, I'm going to say something. I don't know if you've ever heard this before, thought about this before, but I want you to think about this. Feminism greatly devalues women because the heart, to me, of feminist thinking is that it devalues women's natural strengths and desires and says that they are not as valuable as what men want to do and what men desire. Feminism does not celebrate the uniqueness of women, the unique strengths of women, insights of women, and ambitions of women, the things that they naturally have ambitions to. Instead, it tells them that they're going to be valuable, they have to try and be like men. And to me, that's a great insult to God's design for a woman. Because in essence, it says that let me give you an example. Now, you know that we're going to be sending women into combat. And this is seen as a great advance for women. This is seen as a, given because of feminism. But just think logically. Have you in your life ever seen little girls run around the yard shooting each other and playing army? Even one time. Now, how many of you guys have boys? You know you can take every gun away from a boy. They go in the backyard, they find sticks, and they play army. Now, women don't want to be in combat. It's not natural. But women are and not only is it not natural, is it not something that they want to do, it's not something that they're physically really even equipped to do. Men have 50% more brute strength than women. This morning, I just Googled it. I wish this was in pounds, but it's in kilograms. But the men's weightlifting record is 305 kilograms. The woman's weightlifting record is 212 kilograms. Women are not designed to fight with men in battle. And it's not just the physical weight, it's everything about a woman, the unique ways that you're made. When men and women react different to stress and fighting, it's biological, it's brain chemistry, it's hormonal. If you're married and you have a fight with your husband, here's probably what happens in 95% of the cases. The man withdraws and has to go away to cool off. The woman goes to the bedroom and cries. Or maybe calls somebody and processes it emotionally what happened. I mean, am I making this up or is this basically what happens? Yeah. The guy has to walk away and cool down before he does something he's going to regret. Okay? Now, why is that? It's because we react different to stress. We're programmed different. Our chemistry, everything. A man, when he encounters stress, his hormones or his blood rate, his heart rate shoots up, blood pressure goes up. He is ready to fight. And he's afraid what he might do. But that's not how women react to stressful situations. So my point is we have this irrational feminism that doesn't allow us to question or ask questions, but causes us to, women are being told they need to want to do things they don't want to do, and that the things that they want to do aren't valuable. Right? Okay, so, to be a housewife or a mother is not a valuable thing to society. But if you stop doing it, the human race will stop. In one generation, there'll be no more people on the face of the earth. That tells me it's got to be a little bit important. So let's look at some of the differences. Has she passed this out? Did you get this? Okay. Let's just look at, if you're not familiar with this, go to page 4. And can I tell you that this is something I would love for you to read at home. Because what we have to understand is that what we're dealing with is a difference in worldviews. Why are there so many arguments about sexuality, about sexual roles? It flows out of something very basic called a worldview and presuppositions. We'll touch on that, but I hope you take this home and really read it. I worked hard on it, and I think you'll find a lot of help here. But let's look at page 4, and the last paragraph there, or the second last, it says, understand the uniqueness of men and women, of man and woman. The tendency today is to try to establish the equality of men and women through minimizing the differences and the uniqueness of men and women. The result is several generations that do not know either what it means to be a man or what it means to be a woman. And I know women are really frustrated, feeling like there aren't men out there who know what a man is. You know? Feminism has, okay, let's read the next one too. The result is not greater truth, happiness, and well-being, but just the opposite. The result is more divorce, homosexuality, promiscuity, confusion, social instability, disruption, and emotional distress. When people don't know who they are, neither women or men, when they don't have a clear identity and they're not comfortable, then what are you going to have? You're going to have a lot of confusion and disruption. Further, feminism has had a part in weakening the partnership between the sexes. The Bible is very clear that woman is uniquely designed to be a suitable helper, Genesis 2:18. That is, to be the perfect complement to a man. They're to complement each other perfectly. Because she was taken out of man, she would be able to become one flesh with him. It was this one flesh partnership that God gave the dominion mandate to. So it was this partnership of men and women, this one flesh relationship. God said, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth, subdue it, and rule. In other words, take back what Satan has destroyed. Dominion was promised to the godly family with a one flesh couple at its head. Satan wants to destroy this powerful one flesh partnership through bringing confusion into gender identity. By this strategy, he diminishes the threat of a godly family. So, feminism isn't something to uphold women. Feminism is something that brings confusion to understanding who men and women are and what the differences are. It tries to blur the distinctions and devalue what women are by creation. So let's look at some of the differences. First of all, it begins at the genetic level. Men have XY chromosome, women have two X chromosomes. The Creator has designed it so that from the very first cell, men and women are different. Men and women differ in brain functions. So the brains are significantly different. Women tend to be right brain dominant, so they are good at communication and good at organization. Men are left brain dominant, and so that's why they're better at math. The reason that there's more male engineers and there's more male architects is because that's how men's brains function. Women are better at communicating, organizing, making relationships. So it's interesting, even if you study, there's a book called Brain Sex, and if you study even how the brains are organized and put together, there are significant differences in how the human brain of a man and a woman are wired. The blood of men and women have differences. Men's blood has 20% more oxygen-carrying red cells, allowing for less fatigue. Women's blood has more water. A woman's heart beats faster, 80 per minute to 72 for a man. This allows them to have a blood pressure that is 10 points lower than a man's, allowing them to have fewer heart attacks. But the men's heart rate allows them to respond more physically and quicker, which is good if you're in a fight. On average, men are larger. I have 20% more brute strength, but I think that's a misprint. I think it's 50. In what we just did with the weightlifting, it was a 50% difference, 200 versus 300. The hormones are different. You all know that. Men have testosterone, women have estrogen. The additional testosterone along with the higher blood pressure means that men respond to danger with heightened strength and aggression. Men and women respond to stress in biologically different ways. Their metabolic rates are different. Men's are higher, allowing them to remain warm longer in cold conditions, which is why we fight over the thermostat. There are the obvious physical differences. And, the most obvious one is that women are created to create and nurture, or to birth and nurture infant children. Men can't do this function. It's not just physically. Men are not emotionally as equipped to nurture children. And so they've done studies in Time magazine. Little boys were left completely unsocialized in control studies. They always chose trucks, guns, and building blocks to play with. Little girls played with dolls and kitchen toys. So these are differences that are there by design for a good purpose, because God wants men and women to complement each other, to become a one flesh team that he is going to regain dominion with through the earth. And so we're supposed to be. And there's an interesting thing there. I won't read it, but I don't know how many of you know this, but in the womb, there are 25% more males conceived than females. How many of you know that? 25% more. But there are so many more miscarriages for males, stillborn. 30% more males than females die in the first month after birth. It goes on until at age 18, that 25% numerical number has been reduced to even. And then there's more heart attacks, there's more accidents for men, there's more murders. So by the time you reach 60, there's a very high statistical advantage for women. And that's all part of God's design, and I'll let you read that later. I want to say that there are two great delusions in male-female relationships. Thank you. The first one is chauvinism. You've all heard of that? Chauvinism recognizes that there are differences in men and women, that they have different functions, right? That they excel in different areas. And so chauvinism says, because there's a difference in function, therefore, there is a difference in worth. The opposite is feminism, that says because there is no difference in worth, therefore there can be no difference in function. Did you get that? Chauvinism realizes there's a difference in function and says, therefore, there's a difference in worth. Feminism says because there's no difference in worth, there's no difference in function. What is the basic problem? They're both saying the same thing from opposite sides. What is the basic problem there? You guys caught it. What is it? Huh? Yeah. A, your value is not determined by what you do. And B, the things that men do are not more valuable than the things that women do. Does that make sense? So that is the big problem. The Bible both confuse worth and function. They deny that different functions can be equal in worth. So really, chauvinism and feminism are not that far apart. In that they both, feminists agree with chauvinists that what women are attracted to and what they excel at is not worth very much. Now, God has designed the sexes to excel in different areas. Now, when it comes to the church, again, Scripture recognizes that these different abilities, these different gifts are reflected in how we function in the church. And you have been looking at complementarianism and egalitarianism, right? Those are familiar terms. You guys have been talking about that. Complementarianism cites both the equality between men and women and the beneficial differences between them. So complementarianism recognizes reality. I mean, it recognizes brain difference, physical difference, difference in desires, in viewpoints. It's realistic with that, and it allows God to define what those differences mean. Egalitarianism downplays or denies the significance of differences between men and women and sees little or no specialization of roles based upon these differences. Now, once again, just like I was saying about going to war, this is not a win for women. Women don't want to do it. Women aren't physically and emotionally designed to go to war. That's not what God created women to do. So going to war, a lot of women think, well, I've got to do this for the good of womanhood. I'm gonna take this sacrifice to advance the cause of women, even though really I don't want to do it. Crawl around in the mud, all these kinds of things. See body parts blown up. Not necessarily things that you grew up thinking about. Not the kind of movies that you went to. Guys and girls like different movies. But it's the same in the church. There are roles that you don't really want to do. And one of them is the ordained elder or pastor. Because, listen to me, it's all about stress and worry. You got to worry about the finances for the whole church. You've got to be able to deal with all the conflicts that are going on. And one thing that I learned with my wife, I don't know if she ever shared this, but to me, women are by far the better managers. And, I have a pastoral assistant, a secretary. I can't imagine that being a man. Because they're just, not as good. They're not as detail-oriented. And also, I find that, women naturally like to make someone else look good, whether it's their kids or their husband. They derive joy out of that and fulfillment. And men, not so much. They're more ego-driven. So, I can't imagine a man doing that because, they're not good at that kind of detail, and women are just better. It's the way they're put together, and they're not as good at serving in a lot of those areas. Why did I bring that up? I brought it up for, a reason. So, that's an area they excel. But, I know what it was. I was talking about Linda and I. That was why I went on there. Linda she's just better at organizing the bills. I would go out, and I was trying to plant a church and do all this stuff. And she would kind of take care of the home front. And she was really good at organizing the bills and get everything in order. But she would stress so hard. Back when we were poor, she would stress so hard that we don't have enough money. Here's the bills, here's the money. And she would stress out so bad. And so one day, we said, okay, honey, you are so good at the finances that I want, we're going to have you keep doing that. But all you have to do is organize it. You don't have to decide what to pay. And I'll come home and I'll make all those decisions. You don't have to, just tell yourself, Mark will think of something. The bills are this high. The money's this low. You just look at it and go, Mark will think of something. And it's not your problem. And we work great. I am put together to handle stress. Here's another thing. And you've all heard about how men are able to compartmentalize. And there's a physiological reason for that. There are more connections in the woman between the right brain and the left brain. So women, they can't just leave something alone. Now, you've all heard how men compartmentalize, right? Again, that is because men's communication is almost entirely in one side of the brain. Women have it in both, and they connect. So if you're a woman pastor, for instance, and you're dealing with all this stuff at these broken hearts and this terrible marriage and these financial problems, and you might have to lay somebody off, and how are you going to pay for this? You can't leave that at the office. But a man, okay, that's over. That's church. I don't usually like to come home and talk about church at home, generally, So, a guy comes, and he leaves at the front door, and he goes in, and he lives his life, and he enjoys his family for the most part. And, 2 days later, he goes and he picks it up again. So what I'm trying to say is there are a lot of wonderful things that women should want to do and excel in. Lots of them. But, battling over doctrine, worrying about, paying bills. I think women are pressed to do this because they're told that they should. And that's what it means to be equal. But complementarianism, recognizing what the Bible says, is, evangelism. Women can be evangelists because you're just sharing the good news. That's great, give prophecy. There's so many things that women do that they love, that they serve. But this thing of wanting to govern, carry the stress, it's not something that really most women would choose. It's really not. If you did it for a while, you'd go, well, I don't like this. So it's just something to think about. It's not some arbitrary thing the Bible says. When we follow what the Bible teaches in giving those governmental positions of pastor and elder to men only, it's because the Bible recognizes the differences. God designed us. The same God who designed us is the God who gave us the Scriptures. He knows what makes us happy. He knows what fulfills us. So, it's like that whole thing about the gender gap in pay, and probably most of you are familiar with this. By far the main reason for that is because women value families. They value sick parents. They value their children. They want to make a home that's warm. These are high values. They can enjoy work, but when push comes to shove, they are willing to sacrifice the career or advancement or something in order to do what they really want to do. The reason we have the pay gap is that there are actually women out there, like many of you, that think for yourself, that follow your own heart, that aren't just dictated by this radical philosophy that says you've got to be the CEO. Just give up having children. Just forget about your marriage. Forget about your parents. And just be like some of these men that just live totally for the job. But the reason we have a pay gap is a lot of you people say, well, that's really not what I want to do. I enjoy work, or we need the money or something. But man, I want to love my kids and my grandkids. And I want to take care of my parents. I want to make their life better. So I think that went into another one of the questions there. But I want to just encourage you to understand. Let me just say one more thing before we get to the questions. What we're talking about is a difference in worldview. One of the Supreme Court people recently said, it had to do with gay marriage, that the only reason that a person would be against gay marriage is animus. And animus means ill will. You're just mean. The only reason that you'd be against gay marriage is because you're just mean. There's no other reason. Well, it's amazing when he says that, because what he says is that Jesus was mean, Mahatma Gandhi was mean, Mother Teresa was mean. All these people were mean because they never brought it up, right? So it's not meanness, it's a difference in worldviews. So let's look at two main worldviews, because this is really what brings out the difference between complementarianism, egalitarianism, feminism, more traditional views of roles. There's two basic worldviews. There's a Judeo-Christian and a humanist. And let's just look at page 2. I'll hit on a couple of these, and then I hope that you'll take the time, put it in your Bible, and study this. It'll really, I think, help you to understand what's going on. Here's the Judeo-Christian worldview. Number 1, there is a creator who made the world and everything in it. Number 1. The secular world does not agree that there is a creator who made everything in it. And as you've heard us talk about here, it's like when you button a shirt, if you get the top button in the wrong hole, every button will be in the wrong hole after that. And the first button, the foundation for a worldview is the world created by a wise and good and intelligent God? If it is, then there's a plan and a design. That's the first thing. Number two, since he made all things, only he is able to define them. He created them for a purpose, so only he ultimately knows what that purpose is. He gives them meaning. He sets the rules on what is proper. Number three, in the Judeo-Christian worldview, all things exist to serve God and give him glory. Now, when we give God glory and we serve him, we find our highest fulfillment. Why? Because that's what we were created to do. He created us to love him, to be in relationship with him, and to have the thrill of partnering with him to fulfill his purposes. It's not a selfish thing. It's a liberating thing. Now, number four, he has chosen to communicate with us. And this communication has its highest expression in the Scriptures. That is, I'm going to say, the basic kind of Judeo-Christian worldview that has been traditional in this country. Here's a humanistic worldview. In humanism, God is not at the center. We are at the center, number one. We're simply the highest form of evolution in the universe. There is no God. There is no design. Everything came about by chance. So we decide what to call everything. There is no personal being higher than us, nor is there absolute standards. All things exist to give us pleasure and glory. The meaning of everything is that I should use everything to give me personal pleasure. That's the reason things are there. There's no divine book to guide us. Nothing higher than our reason. Number three, all things exist to serve humans and give humans glory. Now, can you see how radically different those viewpoints are? Now, the truth is that most people are not consistent in their thinking. In other words, these two views give us a radically different view on marriage, ethics, education, sexuality, as you'd expect. Most people have views which are a mishmash, which come from both worldviews. Why? Most of you went to public school. All of you watch television. All of you have secular friends. That's the dominant view of culture, of newspapers, of televisions. Many of you went to college. And in college, things were explained to you from the humanistic worldview, which is not your worldview. Nevertheless, you didn't screen it all. You didn't catch it all as it was coming at you. You didn't realize the source. It just sounded good. The teacher, the professor, your friends made it sound reasonable. A lot of other people were believing it, and you just sort of took it in. And so now you have a lot of views in your life, some of which came from God in the Bible, some of which came from humanism. But maybe you've never really examined why do you believe what you do on those certain subjects. And certainly a lot of women have feministic views, not because it comes from the Christian worldview, the biblical worldview, but simply because that's what they think they're supposed to believe, or else they're some kind of backward Neanderthal, stepped upon woman or something. So what we need to do is think through these things. Now, another thing is presuppositions, verse 3, and then we'll give, I know this is kind of academic. Presuppositions are a reflection of our worldview. What is a presupposition? It's something you presuppose to be true before you look at the evidence. So someone that's committed to atheistic evolution has a presupposition, and no matter what the evidence says, they find a way to interpret that to support their worldview. If you are a Christian, you have a presupposition along those lines, and that is how you organize the evidence, right? So presuppositions are something that everybody has. You have them before you look at the evidence. Most presuppositions we get were given to us by our family, by our culture. And so we receive them not because we looked at all the evidence and figured it out, but we just sort of imbibed it without examining it. And their presuppositions are often held emotionally. And so that's why when you're dealing with someone that has all these presuppositions, they can't hear what you're saying. How many of you guys have had that? They just blow up and they call you a bad person. And that's why there's so little debate going on in society, because there are so many people that can't objectively look at the truth. They just respond emotionally. And if you show them a lot of evidence that doesn't accord with their worldview, rather than rationally changing their worldview, they just attack you and get angry. Is this making any sense at all? Just a tiny bit? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that with you. Oh, I'm going to say this one more thing too. Look at verse 4. The stubbornness of presuppositions. Things you suppose to be true. Here's a presupposition. Remember I told you? Presupposition is that the things that men do are more valuable than the things that women do. And if I can't do the things that men do, then I'm being devalued. Right? That's a presupposition. Because we just looked at a whole different way of looking at it. So a presupposition is, let me give you another one. It's kind of a funny one with my son Neil. This guy, he goes to a chiropractor, and this guy's like a new age, kind of, that's his whole worldview, that's his whole theology. And my son had a bulging ruptured disc, and it was terrible. You could see it on the x-rays, and the disc just ballooned out in all kinds of places. He was in a lot of pain. A lot of you guys have heard his testimony. He couldn't hold his baby. And here at church, he was instantly healed. He felt it instantly. And he went back and got new x-rays, and his discs are perfect. So he told his chiropractor. How many guys have heard this? I know Neil shared it. Quite a few. So he told his chiropractor, I got healed. Look, here's the x-rays. And the chiropractor said, well, we don't understand, but sometimes the earth just releases healing power, and we don't understand why it does that. And Neil says, no, I don't think you understand. I was at church, and a man said, God wants to heal backs. And I went forward, and somebody laid hands on me. And as they prayed for my back, in Jesus' name, I instantly felt healing power. And the guy says, the earth is a mysterious thing. Sometimes it just releases healing power. That's a presupposition. I don't know of any evidence that tells us that the earth releases healing power. But that's what a presupposition is. It blinds you. So, the stubbornness of presuppositions. People become very invested in their presuppositions. Once you defend something and live a certain way, you are very emotionally invested in that point of view. Perhaps it's what all their friends or the class of people they want to identify with believe. You can be in certain circles and you can read some stuff that doesn't support global warming. And you can share that with your friends, and you can be crucified and ostracized because it's an emotionally held presupposition. Perhaps they feel that to change their presupposition would be to betray the memory of a loved one. Maybe it was their dear departed grandmother that taught them this point of view. And to change the point of view would be to desecrate her memory. It's the family, it's the culture they came out of. Perhaps they benefit by holding their present views or meet some other need in their life. If you believe in atheistic evolution, it's going to help you if you're in a science department at a university. If you have a different view, it's going to hurt you. People are reluctant to give up their presuppositions or change their worldviews. A general truth I have found is that most people rationalize a lot more than they reason. What do I mean by that? I mean, reason means I look at evidence, I look at evidence, I look at evidence, I use my reason, I make deductions and inductions, and I arrive at a point based on the evidence. That's reason. Rationalization means I hold a presupposition, and no matter what you show me, I rationalize my way to get to where I'm going to get. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of people who do that with the Bible. They already know what they want to believe. Okay? It could be controversial subjects, feminism, homosexuality, gay marriage, just do the hot button items. They already know, they have made up their mind on an emotional level of what they are going to believe, and come hell or high water, they are going to use that Bible to arrive at their conclusion, no matter how crazy their reasoning, no matter how out of balance, they'll take some analogy that they think they see in this story, and they'll completely ignore a clear statement in Scripture out of the mouth of Jesus. Right? So, okay, let's move on to questions, but I think you'll enjoy reading that paper, and it'll help you to understand why there are differences on every, Christians claim to hold different views. But a lot of times it's not because it's that they both are equally finding something in the Bible. The Bible doesn't agree with itself. I mean, you talk to a lot of people, you think you could support any view from the Bible. That's not true. The Bible speaks with one voice. It is coherent. It is in agreement with itself. The reason Christians have different views isn't because the Bible isn't clear. It's because of presuppositions held on emotional levels that they will not let go of. But if we're going to follow Christ, we put everything down at the cross. And that's what it means to follow him, isn't it? Okay, let's look at maybe, Linda, I got some more time, right? So maybe I'll just leave that with you to take home, put it in your Bible. I really hope you do read it. I encourage you to. And let's ask about a couple of questions here. Here's one I'll answer. It says, no, I talked about chauvinism and feminism. Okay. Now, here's a good one. Do men want to be the sole provider? Do they like their women to work? That is a good question. I'm going to share something with you, and it's not so that you can be critical. Because the way that you change somebody is to love them. Find the good in them and build on that. But do men want their women to work? It depends. Some men have a very materialistic view of life. They just want more stuff. They want quads, they want wave runners, they want box seats at the Padre game. They want more stuff. To have more stuff, because that's what they value, they want more money. And so there are a lot of guys that push their wives to work more hours or longer or something like that because they value money. Okay? Other people that have what I would call a more biblical view of life, they value their children higher, they value their marriage. For them, money is not the primary thing. So a lot of them would like their wives to spend as much time as possible, because, hey, in this world, sometimes you need two incomes. But, there's a lot of guys that only want would prefer their wife work part-time. They want their wife to be fulfilled. It's not about the paycheck, but it's about the wife being able to do what she really wants to do. A lot of women feel guilty about how often they're away from their kids. I'm sure there are people in this room that have really struggled with that. Or not being able to help out with the grandkids, or those kinds of things. So I find that people that have that more biblical kind of worldview value system, that they're not the ones that are pushing their wives to work. They're the ones that appreciate what a woman is and want that. They want to be that one flesh relationship. They want to see their kids happy, to succeed, to be secure. They have a value on the extended family. And does that answer that? So I would say if you have a husband that's really pushing you to work, I talk to women all the time that are kind of heartbroken because they just feel guilty. They feel driven by their husband. Their husband wants more money. The best thing you can do is just pray for them, love them, okay? So I'm not saying this so you can go and use it against your husband. The problem that we have is that I know this sounds being critical, but I'll apply it to myself. The Bible says I should love my wife the Bible says she should respect her husband. If I am, instead of letting my wife do the things that in her conscience she really wants to do the most, and instead I am pushing her to violate some of those things, right? And just to go after the buck because I want something, that is not loving my wife. If I'm going to really love my wife, I take into account who she is and what she wants to do. I mean, there are economic realities to life, and it's back in the day, you could live on one income, but of course, we had one car and we had 3 kids in a room, but we've all changed that now. We all have these higher expectations, and it takes extra money. So people do have to work. But I think you're asking more like, what do they want? Now, if I love my wife, she will respect me for letting her do what she was created to do. So that's my answer to men want to be the sole provider. Some do and some don't. I think the best want to be the primary provider because they want to release their wife to do the things that bring her the most joy and that make the world a better place. And, women enjoy work, but not at the expense. Am I making this up? They enjoy work. It's interesting, something, get out of the house, but not at the expense of doing those things that really bring the most joy to their heart. Here's one. How should a woman submit to a man in marriage if he is not a strong Christian leader or if the wife is stronger? That is difficult, but think about this. Men and women are different. We were designed to be different. I mean, just that little thing I took you about, you saw how profound are the differences, physiologically, mentally, brain chemistry, hormonally, everything. When we get saved as men, and we get saved as women. Okay? That doesn't wipe out the uniqueness of who we're created to be. So, when I get saved, it should make me, if I'm a woman, the best woman I could possibly be. So, it never makes me into a man, nor should it. I want to read a scripture here. She just looked it up. Here it is. 1 Peter 3:1. Listen to what this says. If in any way you wives, in the same way you wives be submissive to your own husbands, so that even if any of them are disobedient to the word, they may be won without a word of nagging or argument or judgment or criticism by the spiritual behavior, by the godliness of their wives, as they observe your chaste and respectful behavior. Now, to me, there's a perfect example of the guy that's not only doesn't seem to be too spiritual, it doesn't seem like he's trying to follow the Lord at all. And yet, even in that situation, you look for the grace for you to continue to be who God created you to be. You're to be the best woman there is. That means you do not lead in the marriage. No matter how spiritual you get, it doesn't invert God's created design. The way that you make this one flesh thing work is by being the best woman you can be, expressing spirituality through your feminine nature. And that means it's not by trying to seize control, or I hate the word control, but seize authority or leadership away from the husband, because that just makes it worse. So that's my answer. My answer is that you just continue to pursue personal growth in Jesus into the image of Christ-likeness as expressed through being feminine. And to get into this big thing where you're trying to run your husband and the family and you're running him down. I mean, there's that scripture in Proverbs about a foolish woman destroys her own house with her own hands. It should say with her own tongue. Because women are very verbal. Men aren't. And when women become frustrated with their husband, their words become very, very sharp. And the guy just withdraws. So I would suggest to you, first of all, if you're in a relationship and the guy doesn't appear to be spiritually leading, the first thing you do is you pursue your own growth in Christ. I tell this to people everywhere. No matter what situation you are, you can pursue Christ-likeness, right? It's not just a matter of how much theological knowledge you have, because that can actually work against you, can it, if it puffs you up. But it's learning to be humble, learning to be giving. Here it says learning to be quiet and submissive in the relationship, and that this releases a power. It releases God to work in your relationship. When the more godly, it says, as he sees your godly behavior, the more you are a spiritual, a godly woman, that part of the image of God that's reflected in femininity, the more you pursue that and the more you exude that, the more God works on the other side to bring conviction. And that's really how it works. It really is. I've heard that story so many times that as soon as the one, could be the man, it could be the woman, quits trying to change the other person, quits the conflict, and begins to focus on their own growth in Christ, on responding in a godly way. And you can always do that. No matter what your partner does, you can pursue growth, right? Into Christ-likeness, into humility. It releases and it changes the other person often. Look at another question here. As the head of a family, how are disagreements settled? Well, first of all, I feel like you can't have two heads. I've been a part of a two-headed monster here because we've had co-pastors. This is the only church I've ever known that's made co-pastors work. I've never heard of another church. I've seen churches that tried to copy us, and the church is split. Why does it work here at Foothills? Because we're brothers. And because no matter how much we've butted heads, we know that the other guy is for me. If it was anybody else, sometimes I'd go, oh, that guy, he's out to get me. But when you know that's not the case, then you find another way to put the evidence together and view it. Does that make sense? I mean, you know how we are. And also because my mom went here and, But things don't work with two heads. There has to be one head in the end. And a good leader listens to everybody, weighs everybody, prays, and tries to get the mind of Christ. So I would say this. I would say that submissiveness is a very important quality for a Christian. All of us have to be submitted to God. If we read something in His Word, we need to be submitted and we need to obey it. If we feel like God tells us something as we're hearing a sermon or praying, we need to do that. One of the ways that we submit to God is we submit to His representatives. So children, in order to submit to God, must submit to their parents. A employee, in order to submit to God, must submit to his boss. How many know that's what the Bible teaches? That when we serve them, we serve the Lord, and it's the Lord Jesus Christ who will reward us. There's a couple of scriptures that say that. And in the marriage, one of the ways that we submit to God is to submit to the head of that marriage, which the Bible teaches us is the man. So as I submit to God through that, God is free to work. If I am not submissive in that sense, once a decision's been made, I'm frustrating God. Because now, if the husband's maybe a little out of whack, and who knows, maybe he's right and you're wrong, it's possible. I heard a case once in 1835 in Venezuela where the husband was actually right. I don't think it's ever happened in this country, but I'm just teasing. I make just as much fun of guys. I hope you know that. But even if he's out of kilter, if you have the wrong attitude, now both of the one flesh partners are out of the will of God, right? If someone has a bad attitude and I adopt a bad attitude, we're probably not going to see God's purposes be done. If someone has a bad attitude and I have a right attitude, then there's room for God to move. So, does that answer the question? Okay, so I feel like we worry too much. First of all, we forget that our wife is so different from us, or that our husband is so different from us. We want them to be different, and we want them to be the same. Right? We want them to be strong, the man, and masculine, and have all these qualities, but we want him to talk to us like a woman, and listen to us like a woman, and think and respond like a woman. You can't, they're different. There are no androgynous beings on the planet who are both women and men. And if you rejoice in what's different, the differences God put in the opposite sex, you have to be willing to, you have to be willing to, I don't want to say put up with the downside, but, deal with the fact that they're not like you. All the time, this is one thing I hear all the time, I'm marrying my best friend. And I just think that's so unhealthy. I think you're just going to be so disappointed. You're marrying your husband. You need to have friends that are like you, that want to shop, that want to go over to, and, oh, dear Lord, who invited the co-ed baby shower? I'm sorry. We do not like that. And we don't like co-ed bridal showers. Why take somebody to a bridal shower that's going to be miserable and pretend that he's having a good time? I mean, do you know what I'm saying? They're just pretending. Is that what you want? Somebody who's pretending so you don't get mad? But they're different. Just like you don't want to go to how many of you guys want to get dragged to a UFC fight? I mean, I know I don't. But I mean, it's, so you need to have girlfriends that you talk to. And that's where you get, all your communication, and you get to shop, and you get excited about, the things that girls are excited about. And then your husband, that's just a different world. And yeah, you're close. But men need guy friends, and that's a trick if you can pull that one off. Because men don't think they need friends often, especially when they get older. They have a TV and a remote. What more could you want, I don't even know. I get so far off. I don't remember what I was answering. How do you make your wife feel equal and worthy in your relationship? I value what she does. I value who she is. I really, I don't want to marry a man. I want to marry who she is. And she blows me away. I sit there and I think, how does she do that? Because things come so natural to her that don't come natural to me. And she finds joy in things that I don't find joy in, but that are important in a well-rounded family, in a one-flesh relationship. And it just blows me away. And she gets energy from it. She does those things, and it just, looking after the family, cooking a meal, whatever it is, that kind of, and it energizes her, and it would just weary me out a lot. So I guess that's what I do. I really thank God for what my wife brings, what she brings to our, family growing up, now to the grandkids, what she brings here at the church, what she's able to do. So, and I think you feel equal and respected, right? We should quit. 10 after, right? Okay. Yeah. Did you say what? Oh, I thought you were going to ask me a question. How do you speak to a man who sees woman as lower, like a servant? I guess I'd say a lot of the same things I said to you, because it's just important that we recognize how vitally important each of the roles are, how essential each of the roles are. And, so I guess I'd say a lot of the same things and get him to realize what his problem is, get him to realize like this whole worldly idea about what's important and what's not, which is silly. It's the silliest thing in the world. It's all important, and it's all equally important, and it all needs to be done. And we've got a lot of hurting kids growing up because we've lost sight of the fact that it's all equally important. It all needs to be celebrated. You need to, thank God that God made you a woman. I hope you do that. I hope you just like being a woman. I hope you just enjoy it. And I hope you can see the honor in it and the value in it and just delight in the things that you like to do. And be the person God made you to do and delight in it. And don't apologize to your professor or to this other person, or, don't say, oh, I'm just a homemaker. Thank God for the homemakers. We used to value them. We used to say things. Here's some of the famous things. I don't know if you ever heard this. The hand that rocks the cradle rules the nation. How many of you guys ever heard of that one? Only the more seasoned among us. How many of you young people ever heard that saying? The hand that rocks the cradle rules the nation. Just a few. You used to hear it all the time. It says that the person who's forming the children rules the future. That makes sense. Behind every great man, there is a great woman. The idea that greatness only comes out of complementary working together. It's only when all the cylinders are going and everybody is doing what they need to do that something really great can be accomplished. All right, can I close this in prayer? Or I won't close the prayer. Linda's coming up here.